Hello, welcome back. This is it. This is Talking Oscars. This is the final one until after the awards. Although I'm considering live streaming during the Oscars. My live streams don't get like a lot of views, and I'd be like one of, I don't know, 500 movie YouTubers trying to live stream on Sunday. So I don't know. I make no promises, but these are my final Oscar predictions in every category. Signed, sealed, on the dotted line, not changing it. For this occasion, for those of you in the blind visually impaired community, I'm wearing a hoodie right now. It's actually a hooded vest. It helps hide the fact that my hair is weird. And also, I've got my usual glasses on, and I think I'm wearing a Venom t-shirt. Not really sure. It's part of the reason why I don't do an audio description, introduce myself at the top of videos, is I'm A, not sure if you can see my shirt, B, I'm not 100% sure what I'm wearing. So, anyway, I'm just going to go down the way that Ampus has it on their website, and we'll go category by category. And I'll tell you who I think is going to win. Um, let's go. For Best Actor, we've got Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Coleman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. So, most of these people are just happy to be here. I think we can safely say, sadly, Coleman and Jeffrey, it's just not happening. Bradley, it looks like whatever steam he had has gone away, and this has gone to an increasingly Cillian Murphy looking lead. Now, we live in a world where the Oscars can't possibly ever be this easy to predict. And there are always surprises. But the weird thing is that SAG has lined perfectly with the Oscars for many years. For the past couple of years, they have aligned, and that would mean Cillian wins the Oscar. He also won BAFTA. He does have the Globe. I mean, he has a couple other things. So it looks like it's Cillian, unless you think there might be a bump in the road for SAG at some point. At the beginning of the year, beginning of the season, when we were having the Best Picture, there were people who were concerned because PGA has never gone 10 for 10. They went 10 for 10 this year. So it's possible that SAG could get one wrong. They don't always have to go perfect. In a year when PGA correctly predicted all 10 nominees, maybe SAG doesn't correctly predict all the winners. They had a pretty high rate of nominee. Like, they aligned. It's getting really kind of creepy. It's one of the things I didn't like about Critics' Choice nominations is it felt like we lost any sort of interesting. Oh yeah, that's the critics really loved that. Felt like we were all just trying to predict the Oscars. But as much as I love Paul, and I'm jaded by that, he is one of the tied winners for me for Best Actor in a leading role. I'm not going to go against the trend. I'll say Cillian Murphy, but Paul Giamatti would not surprise me still at this point. The reason being that Paul has been nominated before. Paul's been around for a long time. Paul knows a lot of people. He's worked with a lot of actors. He's got that sort of like underrepresented character actor thing. Cillian is in a film. He is the title character. A lot of biopic actors do win. But you could use that same logic to say that Bradley Cooper wins. So sometimes there's a conversation too about where does makeup align, and that would benefit Bradley, because if you think Maestro is going to end up continuing to take makeup trophies, then that benefits Bradley, because that's like the Jessica Chastain, Eyes of Tammy Faye win. So you can pick any logic you want as long as it fits your narrative and your story. Right now, I'm just not going to fight the SAG. That's the narrative I'm picking. So I'm going with Cillian Murphy. It's boring. I know. I'm sorry. And moving on, the supporting actor. We've got Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro, Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling, Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. Yeah, this is Robert Downey Jr. Do I need to talk about it? If future me told me it wasn't Robert Downey Jr., I would assume that there was some weird groundswell for Ryan Gosling, because I just don't see it happening for anybody else. I can't fathom a world in which Sterling, De Niro, or Ruffalo win. So, yeah, I guess Gosling might be in second place here. But it's Robert Downey Jr. and he's never won. If we were talking about Robert Downey Jr.'s second Oscar win, this would be a deeper conversation. But he's never won. That's the whole reason he's a front runner. He's actually not even a front runner because he's the best performance of the year. He's a front runner because people want to give Robert Downey Jr. an Oscar, and they've been pushing him all season for that very reason. He's Iron Man. He's it's one of the biggest box office stars, and it's just his time. So that's it. That's the whole story. Anybody predicting anybody other than Robert Downey Jr. is walking a very, very dangerous line. That's all I'll say. Best Actress, Annette Bening for Nyad. Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall. Carey Mulligan for Maestro. And Emma Stone for Poor Things. I can go ahead and safely say Carey Mulligan and Annette Bening are not happening. I don't think everybody's secretly been trying to write in Annette Bening. I know that there's a passion to try to get her an Oscar for her fifth film. It's for Nyad. It's for the same reason it didn't work for her for being Julia. I think she was that film's only nomination. It's a small film. There's something to be said for the fact that her competition, I would say her strongest competition is Lily Gladstone, obviously, but we've also got Emma Stone and Sandra Hüller. All three are in Best Picture nominees. And I do think Sandra Hüller has an outside shot here. We've done it before where we've gone for the international nominee. Surprisingly, all of a sudden it's just like, wow, okay, so the international person won, and she's the international nominee in this race. So but usually it feels like something like maybe there's something out there that shows that Sandra could win. Sandra wasn't nominated at SAG. I didn't really expect her to be because it's not an American film. American people don't really know her. Her campaigning isn't great. She doesn't, she's not one of those people who loves being nominated. She's one of those people who's like in it for the work and thinks that everybody else around her should be recognized. She's very, I mean, it's endearing for the people who worked with her, but she's not necessarily like, give me the Oscar, it's not that for her. The question is, would they give Emma Stone a second Academy Award for Poor Things? It is the best performance of her career. She's really young. Lily Gladstone is there. We do have a significant amount of British overlap. We have a lot of international voters. A lot of them are from the UK. She failed to even get a BAFTA nomination. And there is a debate about whether or not she is lead or supporting. I've heard people say that they're talking to Oscar voters who say they're voting for her so that the first Native American actress can win. That's a weird reason to vote for her. I've heard that on some videos from some pundits out there in LA, and I'm like, what? Not that I disagree, but I think they're lying to you. I think they're still... The thing is, anybody can tell you anything to look good, and then they can go home, they can fill out their ballot and vote the way that they want to vote for. Killers and Poor Things both have about the same amount of nominations in terms of that. Anatomy of a Fall, though, for a film that wasn't eligible for international, did really well. It has a picture, director, actress, screenplay, editing nomination, all without the help of international film without being France's nominee. France's nominee, The Taste of Things, has how many Oscar nominations? I'll wait. I'll wait while you look it up. It's 0. So France clearly bet on the wrong horse here in this race. Not that Taste of Things isn't necessarily a good film, but yeah, Anatomy of a Fall didn't need your endorsement. Um, so it's a tough one because I could go either way on any of these three. But like I said, I'm not going to fight the SAG. They picked Lily Gladstone, and I think it's going to go to Lily Gladstone. I do think it's really hard for Emma to get a second Academy Award win. I actually think if there's an upset here, I think it's Sandra Hüller. So, anyway, moving on.
Actress in a supporting role.
Supporting actress. I'm going to save time. It's Divine Joy Randolph. It just is. I mean, I think somebody did the statistics, and she's won more. They think she's won more awards than any single person in awards history because of how many voting groups there are right now out there. There are more Critics Guilds and film festivals and all these things that she can win. I heard the number was 57. I think she has 57 trophies. Good Lord. At this point, if she didn't win, I think somebody might actually die at this. Like, somebody might actually have, like, pass out, have a heart attack or something at the ceremony. Whoever beats her would just be so confused at this point. And the Oscar goes to America Ferrera for Barbie. America would just like be like, what? Yeah, it's just really not even worth debating. So, it's Divine. Davine Joy Randolph. Moving on. We're gonna move through this. And best animated feature. Look at that. We've got The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I wish I felt more confident in Boy and the Heron's Oscar campaigning. The thing is that Spider-Man, we know how much money it made at the box office. It was released in June. It's available on VOD. It's available to stream on Netflix. Everybody's seen the film. Everybody liked the film. For a while there, the online pundits were thinking it might get a Best Picture nomination. Actually, that it might get literally any other nomination than just animated feature. So, but it is the middle of 3 films. I'm thinking that's not a problem. I'm thinking, you got to go by competition by year. Its biggest competition is Boy and the Heron, which GKIDS and Miyazaki, sure. It is Miyazaki, and I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say there's absolutely no shot for The Boy and the Heron here to upset Across the Spider-Verse, which does have that weird hanging Chad ending to it. But since I think this is a pretty safe category to pick Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If you pick any of the other 3, you should win a car for if Elemental, Nimona, or Robot Dreams wins Best Animated Feature over both The Boy and the Heron and Across the Spider-Verse, and you pick it, honestly, just go immediately and play the lottery. The luck is on your side. The force is with you. Moving on. Best cinematography. El Conde. Killers of the Flower Moon. Maestro. Oppenheimer. And Poor Things. I know a lot of people like Poor Things and the cinematography there and think that it has its chance to steal this from Oppenheimer. I think based on where things are headed, usually the Best Picture winner picks up some of these categories, especially when it is a technical achievement. And I know where I'm headed for my Best Picture winner, so I'm sadly it's not going to be Poor Things. So I'm going to lean with Oppenheimer here for best cinematography, with The Outside being, I think, Poor Things over the others. El Conde doesn't have a shot here. It's the only nomination. Trying to get enough people to watch that film over a box office smash like Oppenheimer and then vote for it over a box office smash like Oppenheimer would be really hard. The fact that it got nominated here, the thing is that everybody votes for the winners at the end. So this is no longer just cinematographers grading cinematographers. So you're talking about the wide body, the wide vote. Did everyone watch El Conde? No. No, they didn't. So they're not going to vote for it. Um, anyway, moving on.
Robbie Ryan. Costume design. Nominees. Heading
It's one of the
number
problems about Robot Dreams is how do you get that to every Oscar voter and get them to watch it? You know, like when you have a smaller film like that. Anyway, costume design.
Barbie. Heading level 4.
Barbie,
Jacqueline Duran. Killers of the Flower.
Killers of the Flower Moon,
Napoleon.
Napoleon,
Janty Yates and Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer,
Ellen Min. Poor Things.
and Poor Things. This is a tough category. Barbie was my personal pick as a voter when I did if I was an Oscar voter because of even conceptually as a blind person recreating those iconic images. Sort of like if you do a film that's based on a fashion designer, right? You're having to recreate iconic looks. There is some craft in making sure that you do it right and do it well, and you find the right stuff for the right time. I don't think it's going to win here. I think something else is going to win. I think this might end up being a win for Poor Things. Oppenheimer is Suits. I really hope Oppenheimer doesn't win. Oppenheimer could win if it's sweeping hard. If it is just sweeping hard, it gets costume design. But, you know, I've already got it. I've already named it for what? Actor, supporting actor, and cinematography. I've already got it like 3 wins. Like, how many is it going to win, really? Anyway, I think this may be Poor Things' chance to win an Oscar, just like I think Actress maybe Killers' Oscar win. I think these films may walk away. They were nominated like 10 times, so they may end up getting like 1 win each in different places, so that way they still have a win somewhere. Eventually somebody will vote for them. And it's possible that everybody's going to look at the costuming in Poor Things and think, yeah, that was interesting and exceptional. I don't say it's going to Napoleon all of a sudden. That'd be surprising and weird, and Killers. Anyway, I think it goes to Poor Things. So I'm going to go with Poor Things for costume design.
Holly Waddington. Directing. Heading level 2.
Best director.
Nominees. Anatomy of the Fall. Heading level
We
4.
got Justin Triet for Anatomy of a Fall.
Justine Killers of the Flower Moon.
Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oppenheimer. Heading level 4.
Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer.
Poor Things. Heading level
Yorgos
4.
Lanthimos,
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Poor
Zone of
Things,
Interest.
and Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest.
Documentary
I don't
feature
even know who'd be number 2 right now. The thing is, I should have a number 2 because the Oscars do not like Christopher Nolan. They've only nominated him once for director, and clearly he should have more than that. So it feels weird to say that he's just like running away with it because he's not. In terms of like Oscar, he's in sort of like the Paul Giamatti position where it's like, is he really overdue? Because it seems pretty easy for Cillian Murphy on his first nomination to come along and end up pulling ahead of Paul Giamatti, who feels like he's overdue but only has 1 nomination. That's the same thing with Christopher Nolan, is he feels like he's overdue, but he only has 1 nomination. It's not like Annette Bening that has like 5. But I don't know who else it would be. I feel like I feel like the rest of them are just not a strong enough crop to stand up to him. There isn't really. The only thing that I could possibly think of would be that there's enough Scorsese love to give him a second Academy Award before that man dies. That is, if I had to say who's in second place here, maybe Scorsese, maybe Jonathan Glazer, because Jonathan Glazer's stuff is sort of a directorial achievement that's really easy to spot. but God, it feels like it's just Nolan. Um, but I also don't trust the Oscars, so this is I don't. It's not. That's why I'm willing to talk about it. Divine Joy Randolph feels more like I am bothering, but yeah, there's like a 2% chance Nolan doesn't win this. And who's in that 2%? I guess Marty. I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
Nominees. Heading. Bobby Wine. The People's President.
Documentary. Bobby Wine, The People's President.
Moses Cuello. The Eternal Memory.
The Eternal Memory.
My Take. Four Daughters.
Four Daughters.
To Kill a Tiger.
To Kill a Tiger.
Misha. 20 Days in Mariupol.
20 Days in Mariupol. As I said before, I just feel like if you've seen 20 Days in Mariupol, I don't know how you don't vote for it. I don't know how the Academy, that's full of people who love to do sort of activist type of things, watch a film like 20 Days in Mariupol and don't give it the platform by voting for it for Best Documentary. With the way that the war is being questionably, like, should we stop funding it? Should we just let Russia have Ukraine? This is a great time to elevate 20 Days in Mariupol to a position where more people may watch it because it won Best Documentary. And I don't know. I really just can't see these other films winning. I think in a different year, Four Daughters or Bobby Wine would have a better shot. Or if we were handling the war better. But sadly, 20 Days of Mariupol is a harrowing experience, and it's a hard one. That's maybe the one thing working against it is it's hard to watch, but honestly, people get shot in Bobby Wine for trying to vote, so I don't know. These are not happy documentaries. Four Daughters is not happy. They picked some downers here, guys. This, no matter what wins, you will be very depressed. Eternal Memory is about a man losing his mind to Alzheimer's. These are just not happy documentaries, no matter what wins. So it's not like they're going to pick the happy documentary and be like, let's pick the one that celebrates the life of so-and-so, or the whatever, and it's happy and it's cheerful and it's what we need to... No, they're all depressing. So I can't say that they're going to stay away from 20 Days because it's depressing. They're all depressing. Anyway, moving on.
Mstislav Chernov. Documentary.
Documentary short.
Nominees.
We've got
The Acts of Book Banning.
The ABCs of Book Banning.
Sheila Nevins and Trisha Blesick. The Barber of Little Rock.
The Barber of Little Rock.
John Hoffman and Christine Turk. Island in Between.
Island in Between.
Leo Chiang and The Last Repair Shop.
The Last Repair Shop.
Ben Proudfoot and Chris Bach. Nanai and Weipo.
And Nanai and Weipo. I've heard Nanai and Weipo has actually been playing really well for people who can actually see subtitles. It didn't do anything for me because it doesn't have audio description, and the entire film is in another language. So, yes. But I've heard that people are liking it. I still think that this comes down to ABC's of Book Banning or The Last Repair Shop. The Last Repair Shop it's an LA-based documentary. Hollywood is LA. It's about the Los Angeles Unified School District and getting their instruments repaired. It has an actual distributor behind it that's been pushing it and running its marketing campaign. And I believe it was made in conjunction with one of the news outlets in Los Angeles. I mean, there's just so much behind The Last Repair Shop that it feels like what could beat it? Well, the ABC's of Book Banning could, which is actually the first short from the person who used to run HBO documentaries. So this person is really well connected, but they're not just voting within their own branch finally at the win here. So I don't know. I think Last Repair Shop wins. I think maybe this is where the Feel Good documentary wins, but I could totally see ABC's of Book Banning winning, and I've heard really good things about Nanai Weipo. So I'm hearing nothing about Barber of Little Rock or Island in Between. So you really have three choices, and I'm just going with Last Repair Shop as being the homegrown hit, with a studio behind it that seems to really be pushing it. ABC's A Book Banning seems to be really leaning on the idea that people will vote for it because we live in a time where it feels stupid to ban books, and therefore you'll vote for the documentary that makes fun of banning books. We'll see. I think that's, this is a little bit different. It's unlike with 20 Days of Mariupol, it doesn't have a contender that's a feel good film. So they all sort of feel like they're depressing, and some of them are also activist documentaries. So it still feels like 20 Days of Mariupol has the strongest case. ABC's A Book Banning does have feel good documentaries with, Last Repair Shop and Nene Waipo. It has another sort of activist documentary with Island in Between, to some extent, I guess. I don't know what he's trying to say there. I saw that. It's like, I guess it's a thing. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going with Last Repair Shop. Anyway, moving on.
Sean Wang and Sam David. Film editing. Nominees. Anatomy of the Fall.
Film editing. Anatomy of Fall.
Laurent, The Holdovers.
The Holdovers.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oppenheimer.
Poor Things.
And Poor Things. Again, I think I said this in my other video. Usually you go for the most editing. And sometimes this is actually directly linked to Best Picture. But it doesn't always mean you have to win both. But usually you have to be nominated. I think there's the correlation that people talk about when they talk about film editing is, it was before Coda. Like, there was this really long gap of films that hadn't won. I think Spotlight, Coda are like the exceptions, but basically if you are a Best Picture winner, you are also film editing winner, and therefore I go for Oppenheimer. I think this is another win for Oppenheimer. So
Yorgos Mavrops, International Feature Film.
International Feature.
Nominees. Io Capitano, heading level 4.
Io Capitano.
Italy. Perfect Days.
Perfect Days.
Japan. Society of the Snow.
Society of the Snow.
Spain. The Teacher's Lounge.
The Teacher's Lounge.
Germany. The Zone of Interest.
And The Zone of Interest. It's gotta be The Zone of Interest. It's the only one that not got nominated for Best Picture. I will say that since that time, though, people have had the opportunity to see Society of the Snow, and I think more people have probably seen Society of the Snow than have seen the other three. So I would not be shocked, because there are some people who don't like Zone of Interest. If there were people voting for Society of the Snow and this was a little bit closer than we think it is. But I still think Zone of Interest is going to have enough votes. It would feel so weird if it didn't win and it's in the Best Picture race. That just, to me, is like, I don't know. It's odd. And it's director. It has a director nomination. It just has other nominations too. It's not even just in Best Picture. It's in other categories. So I don't know how Zone doesn't win here. But Society is also in makeup. And so, I mean, it does have other nominations also. Anyway, Zone is my prediction for International Feature.
United Kingdom. Makeup and hairstyling. Heading level 2.
Makeup and hairstyling.
Nominees. Golda.
Golda.
Karen
Maestro.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Louisa. Poor Things.
Poor Things.
Nadia Society of the Snow.
And Society of the Snow. Okay, so we can pretty much just kill Golda and Society of the Snow here. We'll take that out of the logic. Now, Maestro has been the seeming front runner for this for a while now. And it feels like it's going to happen. However, there are arguments to be made for Oppenheimer and Poor Things. So the argument for Oppenheimer is that if we're doing this thing where we tie makeup to the winner, is it possible that Oppenheimer ends up being the surprise winner of makeup and not Maestro, like we assume? Because there's going to be a surprise somewhere. Where is it? Is it going to be that Maestro walks away empty-handed, and that Oppenheimer ends up winning makeup? Or will it be Poor Things. Hear me out on this. Let's say Emma Stone manages to win Best Actress. What if the dual surprise there is not only does she win Best Actress, but it comes along with Best Makeup? The difference with that is that the makeup in Poor Things is likely more related to Willem Dafoe's makeup than it is to Emma Stone's makeup. And Willem Dafoe's not nominated, nor is it in the leading category. So, I'm going to do the unexpected here. I'm going to predict that Maestro does not win. And I'm going to tie Oppenheimer to Cillian Murphy's win for Best Actor. And I'm going to buck the trend and not vote for Maestro. They say to vote for the most makeup. In Oppenheimer, there's a cast full of people who all need makeup. In Maestro, there's one really great makeup that's being done, from what I understand, for Bradley Cooper that has transformed him. But if Bradley's not winning, is there that much passion behind making sure his makeup does? I don't know. I have to try to find where the surprise may be. And the surprise may be that early in the night, before we get to the Best Actor win, that you hear Best Makeup winner Oppenheimer, which really helps you understand that Cillian Murphy is really truly winning Best Actor. So I'm going with Oppenheimer. I might be wrong.
Ana Lopez Boots, music, original score.
Music original score.
Nominees: American Fiction,
American Fiction.
Laura Cartman, Indiana Jones and the
Indiana
Diamond
Jones.
Killers of the Flower
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Robbie Robert, Oppenheimer,
Oppenheimer.
Ludwig, Poor Things,
And
Heading
Poor
North.
Things. I would love for Poor Things to win this. I'm just going to say that. I almost want to like manifest that by picking it, because I think it has the best score of all of these films, just to be totally honest, but I can't let that affect my decision making. So I have to think about what's happening here, you know? No, they're not going to give it to John Williams. The fact that he got nominated, no. For the fifth Indiana Jones film, they didn't give it to him for the Fablemans. The Fablemans would have made, if they want to get John Williams on stage one more time, the Fablemans would have been the place to do it. This is not the time to to try to get John Williams one more Oscar before. You had your shot last year, and people would have been like, all right, well, it's not, I guess the Fableman, you know what I mean? It would have made a lot more sense, because the Fablemans was nominated in other categories. Indiana Jones isn't even nominated in visual effects, so it has no other nominations. It's just, it's not going to happen. Anyway, I don't think American Fiction's winning this, although it does have a really nice, interesting score that I do like. Killers of the Flower Moon, maybe Robbie Robertson's score. I don't know. I don't know where it surges. Oppenheimer, does this continue the sweep for Oppenheimer? Nolan's soundtracks, if we're being honest, all kind of sound the same a little bit. I actually think Poor Things might win, and I'm thinking that because it's a highly nominated film, and people clearly loved Killers, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And Oppenheimer, you can say it's going to steamroll everything. Killers and Poor Things both have like 10 nominations apiece. So I think Poor Things wins. I think Poor Things gets a second win here. I think it walks away with like costumes and score, you know? Anyway, moving on. I'm picking Poor Things. I don't think Oppenheimer's going to sweep every single category.
Jerskin Fendrix, music, original song.
Original song.
Nominees: The Fire Inside, Heading
The
Left,
Fire Inside
Flamin' Hot,
from Flamin' Hot.
I'm Just Ken, from Barbie,
Never Went Away from American Symphony.
A Song for My People,
Was Haas from Killers of the Flower Moon. What Was I Made For from Barbie.
From Barbie, music and lyric by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell.
The only song I can't see winning at all is Flaming Hot. For the same reason, it's just like, Diane Warren will one day write a song for a movie that people are watching for other reasons and not just like for song. Um, maybe we should have given it to her for I Don't Want to Miss a Thing way back in the day. I don't know, but she's just getting nominations at this point. Um, I still to this day can't figure that song in Killers doesn't make an impact to me, so it's really hard to say is it making an impact to anybody else. Obviously, it did to get nominated. I don't think Killers Surprise wins Best Original Song because I don't think anybody's going to remember that song in 10 years. Um, I could say the same about American Symphony because not enough people have seen American Symphony. American Symphony is hurt by the fact that it's not nominated in documentary feature. So it's just nominated in original song. So you just have to really like the song, which means you're voting for John Batiste, which has happened, uh, which is the whole reason why that documentary exists. So it's a very full circle moment if that wins Best Original Song. This feels like where Barbie wins. This just feels like where Barbie wins its Oscar. Um, and I think I'm just Ken is the silly pick, but I think the What Was I Made For is the pick that makes sense. So I'm going with What Was I Made For from Barbie. So which gives Billie Eilish her second Oscar, which just is gonna piss Diane Ward off. I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
Best Picture, heading level 2.
I'm gonna do Best Picture later. We're gonna. I'm not done. Best Picture should be the last thing. You guys are gonna have to wait for Best Picture.
The Zone of Interest. James Wilson. Nominees.
Production design.
Barbie. Heading level 4.
Barbie.
Production.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Production.
Napoleon.
Production.
Oppenheimer.
Poor Things.
And Poor Things. This is the thing. I think Barbie. I think this is another win for Barbie. Yeah, Poor Things could win here, but I think Barbie's production design. Everybody's made such a big deal about building those toys, lifelike toys, the dream houses, the way that they crafted the various little things inside, like to look like the toy versions of things. They're open-faced homes. It's really hard for me as a blind person to describe, but I've heard the description of the Barbie stuff before, and Barbie was a very big film this year. Everybody's seen it. Everybody can vote for it. I think this is a category that Barbie wins. I do. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna say no to Oppenheimer or Poor Things, but as being like maybe the second place, one of those two is probably in second. But it does feel like Barbie here.
Production design. Animated short. Nominees. Heading level 3.
Animated short.
Letter to a Pig.
Letter to a Pig.
Tall Cantor and Amadar. Giselter. 95 Senses. Heading level
95 Senses.
Jerusha Hess and Jared Hess. Our Uniform. Heading level
Our Uniform.
Yege Modem.
Yege Modem? Oh, no, that was the name of the person who did that film. Sorry.
Stephanie Claymon and Mark Reed. Pachyderm. Heading level 4.
Pachyderm?
Stephanie Claymon.
Pachyderm? Is it saying pachyderm? Is it pachyderm? It's pachyderm, isn't it? My screen reader doesn't know what it's saying.
Dave Mullins and Brad Booker. Live action short film. Heading Dave Mullins. War is Over, inspired by the music of John
and War is Over.
Dave Mullins and Brad Booker.
I feel like War is Over wins. I feel like this is a category. It's really I've heard nothing. I haven't heard passion for anything here. Nobody's like come out and told me. I don't know how to watch any of these. Feels like a very weird category. I don't know what's happening here. I've heard nothing. Nobody seems to care. Even when I watch like videos, I watch videos of people who also have no idea what's going on in this category. Every once in a while, you get like an Oscar pundit who's like, "Well, it seems like people, I don't know. It seems like we picked 5 films that nobody cares about. Is what it seemed like. It seems like Pixar didn't make anything interesting last year, and or anyone did actually, for that matter. I don't know. I feel like War is Over probably wins. That's what I'm going with. This is going to be the category that will break ties and everything for people who get everything right. And it'll be, did you pick the correct animated short? I don't know. Live action short.
Nominees.
The After. Invincible.
Knight of Fortune.
Knight of Fortune.
Lost a list. Red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue.
Nasrin Chowdhury and Sarah The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar.
And The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. I think it's one of the Netflix ones, to be honest. I know people, the After worked for a lot of people, supposedly. That's what I've heard. A lot of people were moved by the After, and they could vote for it. But also, it's The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. Netflix has really tried to campaign the hell out of that. I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to say that there are enough people who've worked with Wes Anderson before that want to vote for that and give him an Academy Award, because he's never won. And he probably never will unless he wins in Best Live Action Short. So my vote is for The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, although I will acknowledge that that's not, I don't think this is not a runaway category.
Wes Anderson and Stephen Rolfe. Sound, heading level 2.
Sound.
Nominees: The Creator, heading level
The
4.
Creator.
Ian Voight. Maestro.
Maestro.
Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning.
Chris Monroe. Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Willie Bird. The Zone of Interest.
And The Zone of Interest. This is me being jaded because, again, I saw a bad presentation in movie theater for Oppenheimer, so the sound design for me, when it was presented to me, was in such a destructive way where I could see how the sound design can be manipulated in a way where it's actually bad sound design. But it's also, Zone of Interest kind of hinges on sound design. I don't think the other three are going to win, but I think it's going to be either Oppenheimer or Zone of Interest. So it's possible that with the bomb tests and everything in Oppenheimer, that sadly, even though Zone of Interest should win this category, I think it's going to go to Oppenheimer. I think this is another win for Oppenheimer. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Zone wins. I'm picking the category that I hope I'm wrong with. I hope Zone wins sound, but I think it's Oppenheimer. So, moving on. Visual effects.
Nominees:
The Creator.
Jay Cooper.
Godzilla Minus One.
Takashi.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Mission Impossible.
Alex. Napoleon.
And Napoleon. I feel like
Charlie Henley. Writing. Charlie Henley.
I feel like this category doesn't have like an obvious smack you in the face frontrunner. The Creator did okay at the box office. It is nominated in sound and visual effects, which is good for it. It didn't necessarily get banger reviews, though. Not that it needs to. I mean, Suicide Squad has an Academy Award for Best Makeup. So, sometimes they ignore that. Godzilla Minus One is an interesting choice if you grew up on those kind of films, because it's your opportunity to award a studio that's been doing a certain thing for a long time and a craft that has inspired a lot of people. So actually Godzilla Minus One draws my attention a lot more than, I don't know, like Napoleon for this award. Or Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, which has never been nominated until this point. I think the fact that Mission Impossible got nominated has nothing to do with the strength of its visual effects, but more about the weakness of other films. There are other films this year that, if you listen to people, they were bitching about the visual effects, and they were films that should have been nominated. Indiana Jones should be nominated here. The de-aging should have looked better. The Flash should be nominated here. There are films that should be nominated, but they're not because their visual effects didn't look good. So Mission Impossible finally ended up sliding into this category because its visual effects actually looked good. But I don't think it's the frontrunner here. I think what may end up happening is Guardians wins, because Guardians actually looked good and was a critical and box office success. I think Guardians might win here. I'm a little tentative on it because it's not nominated where else it should be, which is in like makeup. I would say it should be a dual nominee for also for makeup, but yeah. Um, Barring a surprise win for Godzilla minus one, I'm going with Guardians. So, but I think there are a lot of people who grew up on Godzilla, and I would not count on Godzilla minus one at all. It's a well reviewed film, and a lot of kids grew up on Godzilla, and this is their chance. This is their one chance to award not the remakes, but the OG Japanese Godzilla. Anyway, so yeah,
Writing. Adapted screenplay.
adapted
Best Director
screenplay,
nominees. American Fiction.
American Fiction,
Written for this. Barbie. Heading level 4.
Barbie,
Written by Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer,
Written for this. Poor Things. Heading level
Poor
4.
Things,
Screenplay. The Zone of Interest.
and The
Heading
Zone of
level 4.
Interest. I did watch a video about The Zone of Interest from somebody who had actually read the book, who really doesn't like the adaptation, but likes the film, but says it's a poor adaptation. Like it misses a lot of things. And that was really interesting to me. I don't think it's going to win anyway. It feels like it's probably the least likely of these nominees. I don't know that Oppenheimer's screenplay is necessarily the thing that's going to win. Usually picture and screenplay align, but I just don't feel like that's where they're rushing to give the award to. Whereas the screenplay for Poor Things has gotten a lot of praise individually of its own accord, and Court Jefferson's work for American Fiction. The wild card here, though, is Greta Gerwig, who was snubbed for Barbie. And she's probably been, other than Margot Robbie, the most mentioned snub this year. Do I think there's a chance that she could overcome? Uh, there's been such a debate over Barbie's screenplay. Is it original? Is it adapted? The Writers Guild is voting for it an original. BAFTA voted for it an original. Um, Globes doesn't distinguish. It's been all over the place. There's been such a focus on Barbie. I think it's going to win here. I think Court Jefferson's American Fiction should win, but I think there's been such a focus on Barbie's screenplay, and with Greta not getting a director nomination, I think that might give her just enough votes in a category without a front runner, a category without an obvious front runner. I would say that she may steal it away, knocking so that American Fiction wins no Oscars. Um, I hope I'm, like I said, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope this goes to American Fiction. But I think, not that I don't like the screenplay to Barbie, I would have loved to see Court Jefferson walk away with something for American Fiction, or the film walk away with something. But I think there's been just so much talk about this screenplay, more so than any other screenplay I think we've had this year. Like, what category is it in? Oh, Greta Gerwig's been snubbed. Plus, it gives Noah Baumbach an Oscar. I don't know. I think Barbie wins. Um, but if you disagree with me, that's fine. So,
Written by Jonathan. Writing. Original screenplay.
writing original screenplay,
Nominees. Anatomy of the Fall.
Anatomy of the
Heading level
Fall,
4. Screenplay. The Holdovers.
The
Heading level 4.
Holdovers,
Written by Maestro. Heading level 4.
Maestro,
Written by May December.
May
Heading level 4.
December,
Screenplay. Past Lives.
and
Heading level
Past
4.
Lives. It's not going to be May December. That's the film's only nomination. It's just not going to suddenly, all of a sudden, win a category against a whole bunch of Best Picture nominees. I don't think Maestro wins screenplay. I don't think that's going to be, at this point, it would be its only win for me. Past Lives technically is only nominated in screenplay and picture, so me holding it against it that I haven't called it for any other category, I can't call it for any other, this is the only other category I can call it for. Um, so I think it comes down to Anatomy of the Fall, The Holdovers, and uh, for Past Lives. David Hemmingsen's script for The Holdovers has gotten a lot of attention. I think he's absolutely in this race. But I think this comes down to Anatomy of the Fall versus Past Lives. And there's been quite a lot of talk of Anatomy of Fall's screenplay and how great it is. They've been doing some really cool things with readings, and I think this may have out-campaigned The Holdovers and Past Lives. again, this is another one where it's like I wouldn't mind it being Celine Song. I would love to see Celine and Court win for original and adapted, so that way their debuts that they got something for that blew people away, that they actually walked away with something. But I also don't have Anatomy winning anywhere else. So unless Sandra surprises an actress, so this could be Anatomy of a Fall's lone win. So it's gonna be it could be somebody's lone win between Anatomy and Past Lives. But yeah, those are the three. I'm going with Anatomy of a Fall of those three. Very thin margin though.
Written by Celine Song. About. Contact. Link.
All right, so now it's time for Best Picture. You guys know the runners, and the question is, do I think anything can beat Oppenheimer? No, I don't. I toyed with the idea of maybe The Holdovers beating Oppenheimer, but it does feel like this is Oppenheimer's to lose. It feels like some films have actually kind of lost steam, or their steam has been focused into one thing instead of a broad support, which is what Oppenheimer is receiving, is support everywhere instead of more targeted support. Poor Things, for example, is targeting its support towards Emma Stone's campaign trying to get her to beat Lily Gladstone, which is causing Killer's campaign to also be largely about Lily Gladstone and not so much even about winning Best Picture. So, yeah, I don't think, and there's a whole bunch that I just don't think have any shot at all. I don't think Maestro has a shot. I don't think, um, honestly, I don't think we're going to get an international win from either Anatomy or Zone. I think both of them are loved, but they're splitting anybody who would vote for an international candidate. They're splitting the votes. The one thing that you're looking for is you're looking for the film that's unlike anything else. It's unlike Oppenheimer. For people who don't like the doom and gloom of Oppenheimer, what are they voting for? Well, they're going to vote for something cheerful, likely. They're going to vote for like Holdovers, Barbie, Poor Things, American Fiction, something like that. But of those films, I don't see that there's a clear front runner. I don't think that there's of that bunch. I think maybe The Holdovers is the closest. And if I thought Paul was going to win for actor, maybe I'd be more inclined to vote for The Holdovers. Uh, if the night starts heading in The Holdovers' way, you'll know. It'll win original screenplay. It'll win Best Actor, and then maybe it has a shot. But it's not just going to win supporting actress and then jump to picture. Um, and defeat Oppenheimer while Oppenheimer wins like 9 Academy Awards. So yeah, I think Oppenheimer wins. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see how right I am this year. I think I'm gonna get a pretty good job. Hopefully, we'll see. Sometimes I predicted though, and then she just goes wild and crazy, and then weird shit wins, and I could be sitting here the day after the Oscars being like, well, Napoleon won both of its categories. Who saw that coming? No one. Looks like El Conde did win cinematography after all. Best looks like best original screenplay went to May December. Didn't see that one coming. I don't know. It's just yeah, the Oscars do weird things every once in a while. So the weirdest thing I projected was Oppenheimer beating Maestro. I had to pick something because they don't just do that. They don't just go right down the line and give you like the most obvious choice in every single category. So I decided to tie that to Killian's win. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys after the Oscars.